As was introduced, I'm here with Evan Crawford, and Evan is the Corporate Director of Marketing with Pyramid Global Hospitality. He's based in Austin. And Chad Mackay is the CEO of Fire and Vine Hospitality, based out of, I think it's Seattle, right, Chad?
Yep.
Okay. So to start, I'm going to have these guys explain a little bit about their business, what they do, and then we're going to dive into some of the kind of where loyalty is going. I like to prefer to call it recognition, but we can kind of use those synonymously. I think recognition has a bit more appeal than pure loyalty, because I think that's where the industry is going. But we'll talk a little bit about their use, or their looking at how to use AI in this particular aspect. So Evan, why don't you go first? Describe a little bit about what Pyramid Global is up to, what you guys are, and then we'll talk about some of the usage cases you're looking at.
Yeah, so Pyramid Global, we manage more than 200 hotels worldwide. I work with Benchmark Pyramid, which is our independent division of hotels. We've got about 60 or so independent hotels here in the U.S. and in Bermuda. And so, when we think about, loyalty, it's challenging for independent hotels. And so we've got to come up with unique applications that create affinity for both our individual properties, but also, when possible, our portfolio. So excited to explore it.
Yeah, it's got to be tough because you don't have like a big entity kind of giving you direction, and yet each one of these guys has to make their own decisions. Right?
Absolutely, yeah. We're not a brand. We're not trying to be, create Bonvoy or anything like that, but, there is a lot of opportunity.
But you share best practices and things like that.
Sure.
Great, good. Chad, talk a little bit about Fire and Vine.
Yeah, Fire and Vine Hospitality is based out of Seattle, and we're primarily a restaurant group. We have about 10 different operations. Our flagship is El Gaucho Steakhouse. It's a high-end tableside service steakhouse. And then we've got two boutique style. One is a resort development, about 50 units on an 83-acre estate in Walla Walla, and then another 50-unit hotel and restaurant that we're developing in Vancouver, Washington, down on the waterfront. So mostly have been on the restaurant side, know how to make money on that side, and foraying onto the bed side. So the rest of the hospitality.
Great. Thanks, Chad. So one of the reasons that we asked Chad and Evan to join here is that being organizations that are somewhat smaller and nimble, and in case of Evan, very microorganism sized, they can do some pretty interesting things, and both of them are starting to leverage AI. And I apologize, I missed the session this morning on AI, but I want to make sure that we kind of level set what we're talking about when we're talking about AI. Some people sometimes confuse what I would call prescriptive analytics for AI, and it's not the same thing. So just to give a very brief example, so let's say that I'm in a restaurant, the restaurant isn't hitting my numbers today, and the system says, send Evan home an hour early. That's not AI, okay? That's a very simple if-then-else statement that is done every day in prescriptive analytics. So if you're out there as an operator and your vendors are telling you they do AI, and something like that comes along, that is not AI. Let's take that same example and build it out to what AI is. Okay, same thing, the restaurant's not hitting their expected numbers. What happens? The system suggests that Amanda, who's the greeter, moved to be a server since there are only 2 more reservations coming in that night, and Amanda scored very highly proficiently as a server. The system automatically clocks her out as a greeter and clocks her in as a server. Now, it also suggests that Richard, who's the sous chef, who's not going to be busy anymore because we don't have as many entrees coming in as we expect, would be better repurposed to do prep for the rest of the night. And if he does prep for the rest of the night, we don't need to bring in Ellen early so that we can save a couple of hours on labor. And then finally, we suggest that Glenn be sent home early, and Glenn's thrilled about that because Glenn didn't want to come in to begin with because he'd asked for the day off already, and now he's very happy to go home. That is AI, okay? AI is substituting a human thought with a machine thought. And one of the things we're going to talk about with these guys today is how they're looking to leverage that type of technology to the benefit as they look to put together recognition programs. So, Evan, to start, I know you guys have done some work with AI already. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you've leveraged it?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty limited. We work with one of the largest instant rewards platforms in the independent hospitality space, and much like what you're saying, they're using what we understand about the guest, what data we have on them to deploy rewards and start to understand, okay, now what rewards are they choosing, and now start deploying more things like that, and then even taking it steps further to Okay, so now they have that interest base, now just deploying relevant offers to them, and really just it creates a lot of efficiencies and ability to parse through data and then create these meaningful prompts that can help both of our employees do our jobs better, but also do those things in an automated way as well.
And I'm glad you bring up employees, because sometimes people always think that AI has to be customer facing, and sometimes the AI is actually very impactful for your employees as well. And hopefully we'll get a chance to talk about that a little bit more. So, Chad, I know you guys are starting to look at similar types of usage in your business.
Yeah, I think where we're starting out right now on the AI side is we've spent an enormous effort on getting a customer data platform and taking all of our feeds from all of our reservation systems across years, our catering and event software, our profiles coming out of our loyalty program. We've had a loyalty program for almost, I think, 12 years now, called Revelers Club. And we have just a tremendous amount of data that's in there. All of those systems were siloed. There was tons of issues around data integrity and trying to get a PIN or a unique ID for a customer. And so we've partnered with a firm that basically used AI to sift through 7 million records and come out with about 250,000 that are super strong, super relevant. We've got other ones to work on. And then it has all the data sets attached to that. So next is really to go in and use AI to ask some questions. Again, not the guest side as much, but our side of how can we unlock some of that data. We've got POS data, we've got item sales data, frequency, locations. So I love seeing this morning, because I think there's a lot more to come, and we just need to create the data field that we can eventually feed to that.
Right. We see a lot of growth in this area in terms of the number of folks getting into AI. And I was just reading yesterday, I don't know if you guys saw, but ChatGPT is so overwhelmed that they've stopped taking new subscribers. So, I mean, obviously people are jumping on AI. We'll talk a little bit about some of the downfalls of that. But Evan, going forward, what do you see as the future capabilities in your program, or perhaps others, where you can leverage AI to really the benefit of all your independent hotels?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of it is just about how you can really enhance the guest experience across the journey. So we're deploying a reward, but then you've got to make sure that you're creating a prompt for the person at the front desk, to deploy a surprise and delight experience for them. And I think it's making these, and again, it's about parsing through this enormous amount of data and then making predictions that allow our employees to do their jobs better. Because we're in hospitality, we do not want to take the human element out of this. And I think that's what a lot of people think about when they think about AI. And what this is all about is just navigating this data to make, a determination. So I can say, all right, this customer, they selected, X, Y, or Z reward. Well, how can I now make a prediction about this customer and advise my staff of this, so now we can create another unique experience and we can elevate this and take it further.
I'm really glad you bring that up, because it really is about execution. And it's funny, I was at a conference earlier this year that talked about robotics, and the guest speaker got up and was very forceful and said, I'm putting in robotics because I hate my staff and I want to get rid of them all. And that was kind of one of those pregnant pause moments. You go, oh, okay, because we're used to hearing it's going to help my staff, it's going to support them, and it was like I can't stand my chef. If he was gone and I could put a robot there, it'd be great. But Chad, to that point, you really still need a very seasoned staff to execute on these strategies, don't you?
Yeah, for us, we're a high-end experience restaurant group, so our per head is about $110. And so when people come in, they expect really high touch. And so one of our challenges has been, because our reservation system wasn't connected to our loyalty system, wasn't connected to some of our other software, sometimes people could slip through the cracks that we didn't know that they were a loyal patron because the data sets weren't updated and corrected. And so what we're trying to do is make sure that our team has the best information at hand to take care of that guest. So if they have regular requests, they want a cocktail on arrival, all those things we can pull off. We just need to make sure the data is there to do that. So that has been And I know everybody had the same issue we had, which was our data. We had lots of it, but it was a mess. It wasn't easily found, and so getting that to the guest. And my dad has always had a saying of easy to use, easy to choose. And so we want that for our guests. And so, that ChatGPT plugin, like I'm thinking about that for our loyalty app and going, all right, what could we do there? And then really for us, we want to be high touch with high technology behind, but we don't need the guest to see it.
Right. Yeah. And there must be nothing worse if you actually can get to the data. Now that you get there, to not be able to execute on it.
And miss.
And then you had it. You were so close, and you just couldn't pull it off. Evan, you want to say something?
No, you're good.
Oh, okay, good. So one of the interesting things that I was reading an article on Forbes Advisor, and it was talking about the top factors that affect customer loyalty, and at 74%, customer service. It wasn't price, it wasn't environment, it wasn't website, it was customer service. So how do we use an AI tool, in conjunction with great customer service and training, to make that experience all the more special in your world, Evan?
Yeah, again, I mean, you think about things like, chat on your website, or with staffing challenges, a lot of hotels are, implementing different applications that you can engage with. And I think when you can make those types of interactions additive to if they're done poorly, they make your experience way worse, right? It's awful. So now you're just, upset about the type of experience you had. But AI is that space where, maybe you allow technology to take some mundane tasks off the staff. Mm-hmm. So now they can do those special things for the customer. They can create those, again, surprise and delight experiences because they didn't have to fulfill the request for towels or or pillows. And that was all handled by AI, either managing it through a system and creating the right prompts for the different departments, or I think there's a wide variety of applications thinking about the customer loyalty piece. Just the understanding and being able to we have so much data, and it's so siloed so often that if you can get that under one roof through the CDP, you can really start to extend these experiences across the entire customer journey. And I think that's what's missing a lot of the time in customer services. It's not just our data that's siloed, so are our employees.
Right.
So if you can give that information across all departments in real time, leveraging this technology, I think that's the space where we win.
Absolutely. So obviously AI is still an evolving science and evolving technology. And there are situations, aren't there, guys, where AI actually doesn't work, right? And some of you may have heard of the term hallucinations. Raise your hands. Does anybody know what hallucinations in AI mean? We all know what hallucinations if we're walking through the desert. But hallucinations happen in an AI environment when you ask an AI to go out into the open world and seek information. Robert had a great example. Robert, you were part of you were on Broadway, as I recall, right? That's impressive. So, what happens is if AI can't find the answer, it makes it up. Okay, it is a real concern. And a recent TELUS International survey said that 61% of respondents were concerned about generative AI increasing the spread of inaccurate information online. And there have been some documented cases of this. There was a New York lawyer who landed himself in quite a bit of trouble because he used ChatGPT for legal research. Note to self, don't do it. Or in your college, don't do it either. And he submitted a brief that included 6 cases for precedents that didn't exist. So what happens is if you allow AI to go out into the open space, it will fill the holes. So how do you guys keep that under control? How do you stop hallucinations from occurring and then creating a worse guest experience?
So for me, our data set and the partner Harpen that we're using, they don't use the ChatGPT. It's more of a proprietary piece around data sets. Mm-hmm. The other is I'm not out guest facing or asking AI to do things for the guest yet. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go back to RI, the real intelligence, which is actually your people. So arming them because of the things like hallucinations, and you don't kind of control it yet. Although we saw some stuff this morning where we can segregate off and make our own personal ones. So we'll be a fast follower on this one versus trying to drive forward. But I know he's done a little more.
Yeah, I think it's about, anytime you're in like an open AI or like a large language model, you're gonna have more challenges with that. We're focused more on having kind of a closed knowledge base that you're working off of. And, the other piece is we're not doing like, there's not a whole lot of like interaction where there's like generative text going on. So it's more about, working off of a knowledge base that you can then, advise and create efficiency versus, making something up and then communicating that to a customer, right? So, there might be some limited hallucinations. Maybe you trigger a reward that's not relevant, but it's pretty, low risk.
That's benign, right? Yeah. That's fairly safe. As mistakes go, that would be a good one, right? That's good. By the way, we're going to leave a couple minutes at the end. So if you have questions, we will have people out there who will take your questions. We'll make sure we leave a little bit of time at the end. I guess the big question is, can you monetize this? Can you actually put a dollar value on it? Chad, can you look at it and say, I believe if I can add this type of surprise and delight or incremental, bring them back to remembering that this is where they met their wife, or this was the place where they first, I don't know, the first Mai Tai they ever had. Is there some value there? Is there an ROI? Can you monetize that?
We do it all day long.
Okay.
That is our business. And when we started this, a lot of people did not think that high-end restaurants, that you would use a loyalty program or discount program or whatever. But for 12 years, we've proven that. And I think we're up to about 35%, almost 40% of our revenue is now driven by our loyalty members, and everything from birthday and anniversary rewards. So we're driving now 25 million through that channel. We're able to send out a campaign. We're able to start to personalize that and get it down to targeted groups. So for instance, I know we may touch on this later, we're actually in hotels, but we're an individual independent restaurant, so we can market it very differently. So we did a little weekend package just very quickly, sent out, and we had 50 bookings off that, which was 50 beds direct booked to the hotel. And just a great little return, and that's just from our 125,000 loyalty members.
And I think you had shared when we spoke earlier that you have access to your data and you own your data, whereas hotels that you go into perhaps may not have that.
Yeah, so we're with some branded hotels, or we're in branded hotels, and we just happen to be independent operators. So we have way more data than even our hotel partners do.
Yeah.
Because of our proprietary nature of having our data. The other is that we've always worked with vendors where we own the data.
Right.
So even from reservation platforms, we own all of our data. The reservation platform does not, and that's pretty important just going forward. That data is gold if you can access it and if you own it.
Yeah.
Now your challenge must be that every hotel kind of has a different slice of data, right? There's not a lot of consistency, or do you find that there is some consistency that you can kind of start with a starting point and everybody can get raised up by using AI?
Yeah, so we try to keep as much of our data as we can rolled up to the portfolio so we can leverage it across our hotels. But as far as, can you monetize it and create, I think we all know that it's far easier to, create a loyal customer that comes back. It's far cheaper than going after a new customer. So, without a doubt, if you can create affinity and elevate your repeat guest rate, the ROI's there. It's the cost of acquisition is lower. So there's tremendous value in it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So one of the other things that I wanted to talk about, and this was also in a Forbes, actually according to CNN, one of the things they said was that 86% of consumers approve of brands using artificial intelligence. That was, to me, was awfully fascinating. Does that surprise you guys, that it's that high?
No. I don't think people like to be creeped out by
that
marketing.
was what I was thinking. The creepy factor was the first thing that jumped into my mind.
But if you can use the technology to make the customer experience better, then like I don't need everything online to address me by name and tell me that it knows everything about me. If it happens to know everything about me and can make my experience better, then I'll tend to accept that because it's kind of subconscious. But if it starts auto-filling everything and my social security number is popping into a form field, then I'm probably not going to be okay with that.
Yeah, I guess just being a boomer, it kind of creeps me out. I mean, Chad, thoughts? I mean,
we have always, because we're in the high-end business, we have always been concerned about having so much data that staff could end up saying the wrong thing. Like, oh, it's so wonderful to see you again. You were just in here last night with your wife, and those types of I mean, we're high-end steakhouse. We have, and so I do worry, and I'm 53, and I do not like all the information that's out there. So one thing I think that we just have to be conscious as an industry is to be careful. And not abusive. We call it, we could be familiar but not familial in our business, where we can know a customer but not let them know everything we know about them. Especially if they go into a new place, one of our, a new location or somewhere they haven't been, and then all of a sudden we know all their purchase history and all that. Like, I think we need to be delicate with those things, and I certainly don't want AI just to go crazy on them and start.
Yeah. Well, as the great philosopher Spider-Man once said, with great power comes great responsibility. So I think he was right after Socrates there in terms of that knowledge. But and I think everybody's had this experience, even today with what technology exists. I went and bought a pair of snowshoes 5 years ago. I still get banners on the side of my web page for snowshoes. So AI is going to be snowshoes on steroids if we're not careful. So we have to be very careful.
Now, AI would tell you to stop serving you ads.
Exactly. It would say, Toby, you're 60. Stop snowshoeing, for God's sake.
He already has snowshoes.
Exactly. So how do your staff respond to the idea of AI? Do they understand the value that it brings? Are they kind of concerned, as we talked about before, about job security, or do they see this as a way to provide even that much better service to your customer?
I think it's about how it's presented to them. I think there's so much news out there about all of the jobs that will be eliminated by artificial intelligence, so there may be some fear. I don't know that there's that much thought behind that right now, but I think if we can show them that it's going to make their jobs easier in many ways, or allow them to do things that they wouldn't otherwise be able to get accomplished, because it's making their life more efficient, then I think they'll be appreciative of it and excited about it.
Great. Chad, same thing? You said most of the AI opportunities you're looking at are actually employee-facing anyway, aren't they?
Internal.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think, again, the marketing team has probably been the biggest user of it to this point, in the sense of trying to use stuff for that first draft and helping create responses. There's some great stuff this morning about creating some auto responses and customer complaints and that stuff, and maybe those first drafts. And so I think that next level is, where do we push some of that into the operation itself? Again, I think for my frontline servers, the front desk, we want the stuff that's going to help them take excellent care of the guest, but not to muddle up that personal touch.
Yeah.
They don't see AI as something that's going to eliminate their job. If anything, we look at technology and the impersonal, non-personal stuff as an opportunity for us, because we are such an in-person business and experiential, that there'll be a greater need for our business.
Sure. So I know that we have a number of suppliers in the audience here, and so I want to ask a couple questions that kind of give them an idea of what, as an operator, the kind of features and functionality you're looking for. And the first thing we want to talk about is, let's say that you were able to get at some data that wasn't in your closed world that would help you. So, for instance, I was working with a client last week, and they said, I'd really love to get the schedule of the school district, so I know when minors are working and not working. There are some systems out there that now do that. Can you think of some data elements that come from outside of your world that would really enhance your guest experience and opportunity to deliver great value?
customer profile data. So I mean, we're usually going to get physical address and things like that as part of this. So like Experian data and stuff like that, where you can develop lifestyle interests and understand household income.
So if they like snowshoeing, for instance.
If they like snowshoeing or gardening, whatever the case may be, so we can, we want to be really mindful and careful about bringing in third-party information into a system that we've, intentionally, tried to develop on our own and really own that data. But if there, are things from third-party resources, we're not bringing in like new PII. It's just using PII that we have in order to enrich the profile. Then might explore that.
Yeah, Chad, any external data sources that you think would add even that much more value?
Especially if they were somehow ingested, automated.
Yeah, exactly.
It gave us some ideas. I mean, obviously, a hotel, conventions, all those schedules. Love to know. Actually, this is like little teeny thing, but everybody experiences in our business, which is the turnover in hotel concierge. If all of that data somehow repopulated because then we know who moved where and who do we got to touch and all those things. Like that's a real life case where external data would help us because we know who refers and which hotels we need to really take care of. So I mean, those would be kind of like obscure, but those are like real world problems.
Right. Now, Evan, you had mentioned obviously one of the challenges and opportunities that you have is that Pyramid Global has hotels throughout the country, I think even world, right? Or at least Caribbean, as I recall.
Yep.
So there is an opportunity if you can kind of create this community that you could perhaps cross-sell, right?
Yeah, in a perfect world, absolutely. And I think a big piece of that is, from our perspective, we too often, put people in buckets, even though they may well fit into a dozen different buckets. Just because you traveled on business does not mean you're always a business traveler and traveled with your family. You're not always a family vacationer. You could be going on a boys trip to go play golf one week and be on a family vacation the next, and then be going to Portland on business the following week. So, trying to, as we're cross-promoting properties, understanding someone who traveled to Portland to visit one of our hotels may love to go to Skamania Lodge and to go on a vacation with their family. And so trying to, as we build their customer profile within our loyalty program, understanding more about them and, their family, the birthdays, and, so we can deploy things that are relevant to them.
Sure. So you mentioned the word loyalty, and when we started, talked a little bit about loyalty versus recognition. And so I think the industry has kind of started at loyalty where I've talked about this for years. I think we teach our customers sometimes bad behavior about, come in 4 times, get one free, come in 4 times, get one free. And they start to expect those types of services. And maybe we ought to move more towards a recognition program that is what I would consider kind of non-linear, so that they don't necessarily know what they're expecting, but they just know they get amazing service. Yeah. Have you guys looked at kind of adopting some of those techniques in your world? Maybe Chad, we can start with you.
Yeah, I mean, we started as kind of a traditional rewards platform, right? Spend some, get some, birthday, anniversary, get something, those types of things. But what we've started to create multiple tiers, and we've added to those tiers. And so like our Gridiron Society, when you reach that tier, you automatically get a dinner for 4, wine dinner, chef's dinner that you get to give to any charity of your choice. It's been so amazingly popular that next year we're going to push in so that every tier can take some of their reward dollars they've earned and monetize those for a charity. So use that as an auction. And again, that's one of those things where it helps reward that guest, but also gives that guest the ability to go, hey, I can help my school auction out, right? Everybody gets hit up for something, and being able to have something in your pocket. So that would be, just one little piece. The other would be now unlocking experiences because you are so frequent that you get to come in and, have that incredible rum or have that first taste of the scotch and do some of those things that maybe we're not just going to let everybody do.
Oh, I love that idea. I think that idea of actually creating value by providing something that they can give back is just an awesome idea.
And
Evan, anything like that?
I'll do
sorry.
one more
Yeah.
because this is the ability off our app to insert and take any reservation you want in the restaurant as you become certain level. Like if you want a New Year's Eve at 8 o'clock, you're in. Just done. You don't have to call anybody, text that special number.
It's the I know somebody feature.
Yep. So anyway.
That's awesome. Evan, any similar things in your world?
Yeah, I mean, I think you pointed out recognition over loyalty. Like we're not doing a point system or anything like that. It's all about instant rewards, and they may be improved as you visit more or spend more money. But I think it's the things like I mean, it's always nice when you arrive at a front desk of a hotel and they address you by name and they Mr. Crawford, welcome back, or and then you get to the room and they know what welcome amenity you like or the type of beer you have, and it's all about just these personalizations and elevating just like your program, elevating those personalizations as you spend more money or demonstrate affinity to the brand.
Absolutely. So I think we've touched on this a little bit, but how do you think in your world will you know when we've gone too far in our pursuit to model the perfect guest experience? How are we going to know when we've gone just a bit too far? Are the things in your mind that are like non-negotiables? Anything come to mind?
That's tough.
I mean, I think, again, you want the team to have what they need to do their job to deliver exceptional experiences, but you need to leave some of that behind so that we're not going to expose all the data.
You still need that human touch to look at that and say, I know this, but it doesn't mean I have to use it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think if we get to the point where, again, we're eliminating personal interactions, I mean, if you make some maybe meaningless personal interactions obsolete so you can create more important ones elsewhere, I think that's okay. But yeah, if we're getting to the point where you can basically go to a hotel and it's no different than going to an Airbnb because you've never got to talk to anyone,
right?
I don't think that's a good experience.
Do you think in the hotel world AI can be a secret weapon against the third party booking?
I think AI can help us drive more direct conversions and give people a reason to book direct to us. I mean, but the reality is that the OTAs are going to be using AI.
They're going to out AI you.
They've got a hell of a lot more resources than we do. So
yeah, that's true. Okay. So we have about 6 minutes left. I'm going to ask one or two other questions. If you have questions, as I said, there will be folks in the audience with microphones. So please feel free to play Stump the Band. So in your mind, what will be the ultimate guest recognition experience, say 10 years from now? Put on your your faraway glasses and tell me, 10 years from now, what should a guest expect in terms of an experience in your locations?
Oh my gosh. That's so hard because I've been thinking about how much things have changed in the last 10 years.
Yeah, no
that we're
kidding.
even having this conversation today. Chad, you want to take a stab at it first?
I mean, it's in the future. I mean, again, we want it to be easy to use for our guests. We want a great seamless experience. We want, depending on what they're doing, whether they're in for business or personal, we want to help inform our team to how to best support them. So it may be that they're in for a family dinner, which is going to be a totally different way to approach and take care of that. And if AI can inform the team and say, hey, when this person comes in this way, they want it to be a very different, focused on the kids, focused on the spouse, not on them. The business may be a different type of deal.
How about even subtle things
guest
like
recognition on even the valet, so that OCR recognition on the license plate, and
Right.
so like if you think about the total flow and the fact that they could just get up and walk out and the bill's taken care of, right? Like,
or it's a business dinner, so I'm not as concerned about having the seat over by the waterfall. But if I'm there with my wife and it's our 10th anniversary, that was a table we sat at 10 years ago, and all of it's a business dinner, so I want the coursing to be a little bit faster.
Yeah.
But this is a Saturday night and I'm out on a date and I want it to go a little. I'm not married, and so we can go down that route. Things like that. I mean, is that where we?
I mean, I know personally, I'd love it if we both fly a lot.
Yeah.
I don't need all my stuff, all the upgrades and all that stuff all the time. But when I fly with my wife, I certainly would like all of that for her.
Exactly.
And so, does that personalization come through AI for the airlines one day? And is there things that we can learn about that?
Perfect. We gave you some time to think about it, Evan.
Yeah.
Or does it look like 10 years from now?
And some of this isn't even, it's now that we're dabbling in it, but, we talked about it in some of our calls before about carrying these rewards, not just like, hey, get a free cocktail at the bar, but having destination rewards that are included in our environment. So creating this like network of partners that are, so it's not just limited to the hotel experience. I mean, when you travel somewhere, you want to have experiences in the market that you're going to, or maybe even back home. So if we can really understand our customer more effectively, maybe we just trigger, a reward to them for Chad and his wife. Chad and his wife can go grab dinner in downtown in their hometown, and we sent them that reward just because they're loyal to our hotel, maybe thousands of miles away. So doing things that doesn't have to always be about come stay with us. It can just be we value you, and here's what we're going to give you as a result.
And we see the consumer's expectations just continuing to increase, don't we? I mean, we see, the things that they can do at home, they now expect us to be able to do, and they expect us to know all about those things and be able to address them. So we have about 3 minutes left. If anybody has any questions, if you would raise your hands, and we will get somebody to come over to you. Oh, perfect.
Hi, I'm from USF, a graduate student. My name is Elida. And I would like to ask both of you, first of all, what do you think about robots in the front desk? In addition to that, what should guests expect? Or how do they feel, in your opinion? Or like in your restaurant?
So I know that we have had some hotels test out robots for purposes of like, banquets and catering, having little service robots and stuff. But I think it was more of like a, almost like a fun
A novelty.
thing. Yeah, novelty item.
Yeah.
I don't personally like it at the front desk. I think it would, I don't know, it makes it kind of cold. If you had a really contemporary hotel, you might think it's cool, a cool experience, at least right now. But, hospitality is about the human interaction. And again, we can use technology to make the hotel operation far more efficient, so we can create really special experiences. But if we're, eliminating all interactions, then I think we're doing ourselves a disservice.
Yeah, I think the definition of hospitality is being hospitable.
Yeah.
Chad, in your world, any usage of robotics?
The one usage that seems to be pretty great is in the hotel in Vancouver. They actually have a robot that goes around and is doing vacuuming all the time. It's a cute robot. It's kind of cool. If you get a robot for the dishwasher, I'm 100% bought in. They're not going to be on my dining room floor.
Yeah. And we see some popping up in restaurants, flipping burgers or making pizzas or things like that. We're starting to see that use. But did we answer your question?
Sorry?
I'm sorry, did we answer your question properly?
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions?
We got one right here.
Perfect.
Hello, my name is Noah Stoniker, and I'm with West Virginia University. This question is for Chad or Evan. So AI personalization with data mining doesn't really scare or bother people who are part of the younger generation, especially since the internet has been so prevalent in our lives growing up. I wanted to point out that the internet for the older generation is generative AI for my generation, being how impactful it is to the world. How do you teeter to both demographics where some are hyper-conservative about data privacy and those who couldn't care less if they had a steak dinner with their wife last night?
I mean, I think you have to be respectful of people's privacy and give them the ability to opt out. I mean, if you don't want those personalizations, then you should be able to say, no, don't do this. And I think, privacy laws that are, New York and California and GDPR, even though they might make our jobs more difficult as marketers in like an immediate term, I think they're a good thing because they're going to make us do things in I think, more intentional way instead of just give us all your data and we're going to market to you. And I think you should have the ability to say no.
Chad?
Yeah, the privacy data standards I think are coming and will be welcomed, so that people have control. And you may find out one day, 10 years from now, that maybe you didn't want all that information out there.
Yeah, when you have money.
When you could sue your parents for
There
all
we
the
go.
Instagram
There we
posts
go.
they put out there.
It's funny how things change when the bank account gets bigger. So anyway, well, thank you, everybody. We appreciate you taking the time, and hopefully you found this to be useful, and we'll talk again soon. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.